and our partners.
The very first I Am an Entrepreneur Digital Summit. My name is Andile Kumalo and I will be your host this morning. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all. I see we've got hundreds of people from all over the world. I want to first thank our sponsors, FNB, more than our sponsors actually, our real partner, a lot for small scale farmers who are able to take their produce and put them into ShopRite and Checker stores. And I know many of them are joining us as well this morning. Thank you so much, guys. And of course, Google, who's been with us through the journey. And of course, since we're talking about being digital today, they are also here. So welcome, thank you, everybody, wherever you come from, wherever you are in the world and the country, you are most welcome. Now, there are two platforms that you could be joining from this morning. You could be right here on this Crowdcast platform. The platform I'm at is the Crowdcast platform. Thank you so much for joining us. Keegan from Missing Link has already explained how everything works, but very quickly, if you want to place a comment, there's a comment line on your right, on my right-hand side of your screen. You can comment literally anything. So you want to share something, you're like, oh wow, Musa, that was great. Hey Google, this has also worked for me. Or hey guys, you want to read this book about this particular topic. So this is our safe space. This is where we share any insights, any thoughts, anything else that you want to, please share it on that particular platform. And then we learned about the Ask a Question feature. It's pretty cool. So you go and click on Ask a Question. One, you can obviously ask your own question, but if there's a question there that you wanted to ask, there's no need for you to type it again. All you do is you vote it up. And what that means is that I, as the host, will know which is the most popular question. So before you type your question, quickly scan what other questions are there. If yours is there, just click on vote. And that means that question gets ranked up. And that means I can put it to the guest. And I can also put it to anybody else out there and make sure that it is actually answered. So that is the platform here. Oh, and one more thing. There are also polls, right? We're going to be doing polls throughout the session. Also at the bottom of your screen, you'll see something called polls. And every time one is added, there'll be a little orange one in a little orange circle. That means there's a poll available. I'll obviously cue you when it's time to answer those polls. Now, when we came up with these digital summits, one of the things that really bothered me was the fact that you can place these kind of things digitally and online, but it's not everybody that has access. It's not everybody that has got the data to be able to access this information and these very, very useful resources that are going to be discussed today. And of course, even more so during COVID, right? Because even if you had a bit of money to be able to do this, in COVID, a lot of us are really, really struggling. So what have we done? We've done a world first. In fact, I think it's definitely a South Africa first. I think it may be an Africa first, and who knows, maybe even a world first. So this entrepreneurship event is being live streamed on imanentrepreneur.co.za/stream. And the guys that are going on there don't have to pay for the data. And that's essentially because we're using what is called a reverse billing technology. And that means we pick up the tab for the entrepreneur. So wherever you are in this country, if you are sitting back and you really, really want to benefit, this is the time to do it. So that's the plan. That's what's happening. The guys that are on the stream, 078-350-768 is the WhatsApp line. You'll also see it on your RSVP line, or rather on your screen on the webpage at imanentrepreneur.co.za/stream. You will see the WhatsApp line. That's where you send me any questions you might have, so that when we get to Q&A, we will be able to pull questions both from the Crowdcast, look at me, Crowdcast platform, and also for the guys who are streaming for free. All right, so that's the plan. That's what's happening. Let's make sure you know how to use the chat. Where are you from? Where are you dialing from? Hit me up on the chat. Which city are you in? Which township are you in? Which country? You may very well be in a different country. I'm seeing a lot of people putting up here. How are you, my good sir? Bloemfontein, Rene Beck from Bloem, also Tando from Bloem. Lizzie's on the north side of Joburg. I hope you're enjoying the breeze and the wind. And in Durban is Kia. Thank you so much for joining all the way from Durban. Come on, you guys, share where you're coming from so that I know. Oh, Angela Squambana, coming from Limpopo. Hello, Angela Squambana from Limpopo. You're most welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It's very important that you are here. Tula from Durban, I see you. Brenda from Joburg, I see you. Everybody, you're more than welcome. Tamsin, all the way from Cape Town, you're most welcome. So please, guys, please share on the WhatsApp. Also share on the comment line. Let me know where you are at. Let me know where you are doing, what you're doing, and you're most welcome on this particular platform. We're almost 400 up on people that are here. It's amazing. I know my team is up on 500. That's their kind of target. So hopefully we'll hit it today. Right, let's get into the swing of things. So I've got a couple of surprises for you. So now I'm going to talk about the very first surprise. I want to introduce you to a lady called Lita Curry. Now, what Lita does is she's a graphic artist. But this graphic artist has a little bit of an interesting element to it. Her work and her job is to be with us today for the rest of the summit and find a way to capture all that needs to happen in this summit today in a way that you and I may not be accustomed to. Lita, over to you. What are you doing here? I think Lita's still sharing her screen. As soon as the screen is back up, I will send over the signal to her and she can tell you why she is here. But I also see Katlego from Limpopo, Clay from Cape Town. Hello, Clay. Palabura, Nomsa. Nomsa is from Palabura. She has a B&B in Palabura. Hello, Nomsa Butabelo with a B&B in Palabura. One day you there. Thank you so much for joining us. Port Shepstone. Man, when's the last time I went to Port Shepstone? Yashina Singh from the South Coast in Port Shepstone in KwaZulu-Natal. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And also Lusanda in Kyalami joining us as well. And as soon as I have Lita on screen, I will be able to show you what Lita is doing because she is doing something pretty cool, something you can share at the end of the summit. And that's all about this graphic representation of today's session, right? She's going to be capturing all the things you'll be saying, all the comments you'll be making, and all of the questions you'll be asking, right? So since she's struggling to kind of get on now, what I will do though is I'll move on, and at the right time, I'll put her back up again when she is ready to share the screen. But suffice to say that you will have a little gift at the end that you'll be able to share about what it is that we covered on the session today. All right, that's what Lita will be doing. But before we get though to our first speaker, just a reminder once again, the guys that are streaming for free, 0783500768 is the WhatsApp line. Do share your comments. All the guys that are on the group, please give us your comments. Already Ketu Metz is commenting here. Hey, Ketu from Joburg, excited to be here. Thanks for the invite and taking care of us during this challenging time. Hashtag the tourism sector. Kaylee, she's in the tourism sector. Excited to be here. Keto, you're more than welcome. You're absolutely more than welcome. Right, so let's kick things off with a poll. All right, we're gonna have a fun poll right now, all right, to make sure that you guys know how to poll, all right? So right now the poll has just been put live, so to the bottom of your screens, there where it says polls, and I have a very important question to ask you, and I need you to be 100% honest. Be honest. Have you showered yet? You woke up this morning, you knew you had a webinar starting at 10 o'clock. Did you have a shower? Be honest. Tell the truth. Shame the devil. Don't be that person. At least maybe, you know, but did you actually bath? Please let us know. Please let us know. Make sure that you tell the truth. Don't lie. I see a lot of people haven't showered. I see a lot of them haven't showered. Oh my goodness, what is up with you guys? Hey, how dare you? Eh? I'm going to put some of you guys on the screen just to prove that you have. All right, I see that's leading the vote. Of course I have, you liars, you're lying. Option 2, who's that? Oh, option 3, in fact. A day has 24 hours, we're only a few hours in Andile. All right, so let's keep that going. Please make sure that you vote. Please make sure you tell us, what have you done? Have you showered this morning? And Trina says, I showered. Yo, tell the truth, entrepreneurs, indeed. Indeed, I see also, hello, Yolanda, welcome. You're most welcome to be here as well. Right, guys, our first speaker, while you're answering that poll, let me introduce you to our very first speaker. His name is Musa Kalenga. He's an enthusiastic entrepreneur who's been passionate about using technology to empower the digitally invisible. He calls them the digitally invisible. He started a company called Bridge Labs, and he spends a lot of time talking to entrepreneurs about them finding ways to address the problem of gaining access to appropriate online tools for you and I to be able to build mobile platforms for our businesses. And he's going to be sharing this morning the response strategies that you and I should be embarking on in this time of COVID-19. So, my good man Musa, let me just make sure you are ready, my brother, to take the floor after this commercial break. Musa Kalenga, everybody.
Hi there, my name is Musa Kalenga, and I'll be speaking to you about response strategies for small and medium businesses in these crazy and uncertain times. If we look at nature and reflect on how these animals have been able to survive over all these years, it's interesting to see that each animal was built with exactly what it needs to be able to survive. Look at the lion as an example, the king of the jungle. The prowess, the speed, and the sheer power of the lion means that it can hunt and can kill things with swift and precision insight. If you think about an elephant, with its sheer mass, its volume, by its skin, its horns, all of it, its tusks, all of it have been designed for it to be able to survive. Or you just consider something that's not as sexy as a lion or even an elephant. You think about a chameleon of all things. It's also been able to survive, not by being able to be fast or big or strong or powerful, but being able to blend into the background, and in so doing, being able to survive all these years and all this time. It's important for us to think about that as we consider where we are. I looked at a very awesome quote by the President of the Republic of Ghana, President Nana Akufo-Addo, who speaks about the fact that we aren't able to bring people back to life, but we're able to bring economies back to life. And this human-centered approach to being able to solve problems resonates deeply with me, and we see the same thing being employed by our very own President Cyril Ramaphosa. Or another quote that speaks about a dangerous turn in the road is only dangerous if you forget to turn. And you consider yourself as an entrepreneur, as the person driving the car. You consider your vehicle as being the actual vehicle that's going to be turning through the corner. You have to go wide. You have to enter into the apex of the corner and accelerate out of it. And so the way you navigate the corner is really going to be what determines whether it's dangerous or not. So it's really important for us to keep that in mind as entrepreneurs through these really tough times. The situation pre-COVID-19 was also not the rosiest of pictures. If we consider thinking about our GDP growth, we had growth revised down, and we were on this rickety road to almost recovery, but we were not at the place we needed to be as an economy as a whole. If we think about inflation rates, we were struggling to be able to create more inclusive spaces for organizations and businesses to thrive. Or even unemployment, which was sitting at a phenomenal 29% before COVID-19, meaning that we weren't able to create enough spaces for younger people and more inclusive growth to bring more people into the market. But despite all of that, small, medium businesses, entrepreneurs were plugging forward. They were moving forward, making plans, creating strategies, doing what they needed to do. And all of a sudden, wham, left jab to the face. And I'm sure a lot of you will know that it feels what it felt like when COVID-19 hit and we had to go on lockdown. It literally felt like they had taken the wind out of your sails. And so I never thought I'd be quoting Mike Tyson, but it's a really appropriate thing to say, that everybody's got this amazing plan until you get jabbed in the face. And it's so true. And a lot of you felt that way immediately when lockdown has started to happen. So the important thing we need to talk about today is, how do we recover from this? So you've just taken the left jab to the face, and now you're kind of like, whoa, what's going on? You're seeing four heads. You're trying to figure out what is happening. And so the first thing we have to do is we have to stabilize. And the stabilization really is a process of being able to understand what has just happened. And the process of being able to sense make what has just happened allows you to be able to have a counter response that makes a lot more sense. And so when you think about the model that we have, we talk about stabilizing, assessing, stabilizing, pivoting, and then growing. And in your assessing phase, you pretty much look at a very simple way of thinking about how the business is going to thrive. So stabilization as a starting point is about understanding three things. The first is that the macroeconomic curve is going to form a very particular trajectory. And as an entrepreneur, have a viewpoint on what that trajectory is. The second thing is in your own sector, you're likely to have a very different trajectory. I believe, as an example, the economy is going to be in a U-shaped recovery, whereas a sector curve is going to be specific to my sector, which I operate in. And one of the businesses I run happens to be a business that works in information technology or IT. And so I believe that that sector curve is going to be very different to the U-shaped economic curve. So the sector curve is likely to be a V-shaped sector curve because I believe you create the right products, the right services, and the right solutions. It means that you'll be able to navigate that a lot easier and recover a lot quicker than other companies. So it's very possible for the economy to be on one curve and for your sector to be on another curve. With that in mind, you need to start having your what I call the next day and next week actions, right? The next day actions are what are the actions that you can take immediately within your scope of control that you can implement right now. And those decisions are really crucial because you can make them quickly and you can change things in a lot more nimble way. The next week decisions effectively are those decisions that might involve people outside of your process. It might be a stakeholder group, might be lobbying a regulatory group or a body of people that impact your process or your business somehow. So those are next week decisions. Why? They take a bit of time to land. You need to think about them a little bit more and you need to consider that over a period of time. So those are the first things you need to do as you are stabilizing your business, is that you need to make sure that your decisions are very clean, crisp, and well articulated. The next thing you do is you look at three business horizons. You consider value over time. And the first business horizon effectively is H1, where you think about how do I defend my current turf, which is the current services and products that you have to the customers that you currently have. How do you make sure you don't have a leaking bucket of customers that are leaving you? So the first and most important thing is defend what you currently have. The next horizon, which is H2, is how do you extend what you currently have? You find adjacencies effectively. So take what you serve and sell to different kinds of people to be able to have them buy into your product or service. The third horizon is effectively about blue sky, where you sell new things to new people altogether. And so when you consider these three horizons as a business, have clear plans for each one of those horizons such that you're able to use that to guide your decisions and how you're actually responding during this time. If you look at a company like Facebook, they use this very simple methodology in exactly the same way. Horizon 1 for Facebook was effectively stabilizing their ecosystem, making sure the ad platform worked, and it was actually Facebook, people were coming back to it as a platform. Horizon 2 was about products. So they bought companies like Instagram and WhatsApp, and they built on search, they built on video and all those kind of products in Horizon 2. And then Horizon 3 was all about technologies, right? It was all about understanding where is the world going to go around connectivity, around AI, around the productization of VR and AR. And those three horizons allow you to be brutally focused on what you need to do within that horizon at that particular time. The next step of the process is when you've stabilized, you now assess your surroundings. And assessment is really key because assessment is looking in the mirror and being able to understand what you need to be thinking about as you're building your product or your service. And to be able to look in the mirror, there's two things you need to be aware of. One is your implementation agility, and the second thing is your mental resolve. Now, implementation agility really is your ability to make quick decisions. It's your ability to actually take those decisions and change the standard of business operation in your organization, which I think is crucial for you to understand. The next step is about mental resolve, which seems like a small thing, but it's actually quite a big thing. The mental resolve actually tells you that you've made peace with the world and that it's going in a fundamentally different direction. And if you haven't thought about that clearly, sometimes you get caught in nostalgia. So when you're looking in the mirror, you plot these things on these two graphs and these four quadrants come up. And if you think about the first quadrant, effectively what you have is you've got a high implementation agility, but you've got a very low mental resolve. And so you're in the rocking chair. You're busy implementing stuff, you're doing all these things, but you fundamentally have not made peace with the fact that the world is going in a different direction. The second quadrant is all about your low implementation agility and your low mental resolve. Now here, not only are you not changing your business, you have not even started to think about the world in a different way. So this is the pity party where you're going to stagnate. Unfortunately, stagnation means that you're not going to be able to grow. And then you've got a place where you've got a high mental agility, but low implementation, high mental resolve and low implementation agility, which effectively is the place where you're compliant. You're the complacent. You're ticking all the boxes because you know the world is going differently, but your business is almost calcified to the extent that you can't change it, can't move in a different direction, you can't do different things. And so it becomes quite a frustrating place to be, but you have to change the way you think. And then you have the fourth quadrant, which is about high implementation agility and a high mental resolve, which means you're ready to reinvent, you're ready to thrive, you're ready to go out there and just do things very differently. And so it's a great way to look at yourself in the mirror and start thinking about the way you need to respond. And one of the ways you can respond is actually with innovation. A very simple model by the Harvard Business Review effectively says innovation is about understanding two things. The first is, how well is your problem that you're trying to solve defined? Secondly is, how well is the domain that you're operating in defined? So the problem you're trying to solve versus the domain you're operating in. And if you understand those two things, you can start to think about how you should be innovating as an organization. So you could, as an example, be in the space where your problem is not well defined and knows your domain. And this typically is where SpaceX is. Trying to send people to the moon and understanding how that all works is an undefined space. So their innovation is all about basic research. So understanding what needs to happen in these extraterrestrial environments, understanding material, combustion, propellers, all that kind of stuff is all about basic research. That's just pretty much wrapping our head around the problem. And then you've got a situation where your problem is well defined, but your domain isn't. So like electric vehicles, that's the domain, but the problem of transportation has been well defined over the years. And so Tesla is really a good example of that. Now, what they do is they have all these skunk works. They have all these processes where they inspire people to try and create and implement and try and disrupt and work very hard on the concept of electric vehicles to be able to advance and to be able to innovate. And then you've got a situation where, like in banking, you've got a very well-defined domain like banking, but the problem not well-defined. This company called Zelf effectively trying to solve for integrating banking services into every messenger application. So banking services and messenger application is not well defined at all. In fact, that's how they raise money. They do VCs, they do sprints, they do labs, where they can effectively understand and proof test whether this is going to work. And then in the space where you've got a well-defined problem as well as a well-defined domain, you're going to be pretty much involved with research that has to do, with exercise that has to do with sustaining innovation through research and development labs. You're going to have very clear roadmaps. You're going to be able to do a lot of design thinking, and that's in the space of sustaining innovation. So as you look yourself in the mirror as a small business, number one, be very clear which quadrant you fit in relation to where you are as a business. Are you stagnating? Are you in the pity party? Are you potentially the compliant? Are you ticking all the boxes? Or are you potentially one person that's in the rocking chair going back and forth? Or are you ready to thrive? Step number one. Step number two, what innovation pathway am I likely to take to be able to get to the place I need to get to? And that's understanding how well your domain is defined as well as your problem is defined. The next thing we look at is the pivot. And the pivot for me is really interesting because a lot of you have known where the pivot is going in a different direction or changing direction. And I tell you that the pivot today is about the point in which you start, right? So if you consider the foot on the ground when you're running as an athlete, if you're trying to make a very quick and sharp turn, you have to have a strong foot and firm ground. If you have a strong foot and shaky ground, you can break your leg. So the point from which you pivot is equally important to the direction you go. And so how we think about the pivot is we consider there's two things that we need to understand. There's proficiency and there's degree of proficiency. So both of us can sell bread, but one person can sell bread better than the other. And then there's depth of relationship. Both of us can have a good relationship with someone, but one relationship can be better than the other. And so these things have got a degree. And if you plot that, you'll know that startups will be in the space where they tend to have low proficiencies as well as low relationships or shallow relationships. And so what they're trying to do is fundamentally move from that space to a different space. You've got these high value legacy organizations which tend to have high proficiencies, but they struggle to get into new relationships, new markets, and new spaces. My favorite is the tenderpreneur who tends to have deep relationships. He knows everybody in the department or everybody on the senior team, but he tends not to have such a great level of proficiency. So he has to partner, he has to do JVs, he has to find people who can outsource, etc., etc. And then you've got the high impact entrepreneurs who tend to have high proficiencies as well as very deep relationships. So if we consider that as our point of pivot, you're then starting from a place where you've started to understand what you do really well as an organization. And then you can figure out where you need to go to. Because the second step is effectively around understanding your customer problem really well. So you spend a lot of time in that customer discovery phase, and then you validate that problem. So is it real, and are they willing to pay for it? And you're going to go round and round in circles between those two quadrants before you've realized you've got something, and then you create a customer, and then you create a business off that. So your pivot actually starts by being very critical about where you are from a proficiency and a relationship perspective. An organization that recently I've seen do something like this is the partnership between Uber Eats as well as, what are they called? The guys who books, Exclusive Books. That's who they are. So Uber Eats sat there and they thought during lockdown, geez, we can't deliver food. Why? People aren't allowed in restaurants. Similarly, Exclusive Books sat there and said, people have got more time available because they're sitting at home, but they can't buy books from us. They obviously had a very underdeveloped ecosystem from an e-commerce perspective. So the partnership was, let's look at our proficiencies, what we do well, and let's find people to partner with to create a new value or a new system of delivery. And so we all saw the news that broke that Uber Eats had partnered with Exclusive Books, and they were now able to deliver books to wherever you were. And so this is really a clever way of thinking about how you create partnerships to develop new value as small businesses. In fact, when we think about decisions, some of these things require you to make really exponential decisions that take you outside of your comfort zone, right? And so if you consider your comfort zone, these two kind of options are you have incremental decisions or you've got exponential decisions. And the book that I wrote, Ladders and Trampolines, really speaks about those two as different concepts, right? You can have an incremental decision, which effectively gives you the incremental benefit over time. And that's not a bad thing. But you also need to be clear that you can have exponential decisions. And the moment at which you make an exponential decision, you're changing the trajectory in quite a drastic way. And so you need to be able to be cognizant of that to understand the benefit of both cases. So just to recap on the pivot, the first and most importantly is understand the point from which you're pivoting from, which is effectively understanding your proficiency level against the depth of your relationships. Once you've been able to do that, you can start to close the gap on how you think about the decisions that you have to make. So you've got incremental decisions, and then you've got exponential decisions, and those two are very different. And then third, but not least, you have to think about the process of customer discovery, spending time obsessing with your customer and validating that what you're doing is actually a thing. And making sure that when that lines up, you can then create a customer and then you actually begin the process of building a business. That's how we think about the pivot. And I think that's a great way for us to start moving into the last phase, which is exciting. It's all about growth, the thing that we want as small businesses. And growth effectively is understanding that post-COVID-19, there are things you have to do now during COVID-19. And so a big part of growth is around people. And if we think about the 4 things that are top of mind for people that are sitting in your organization or the space that you work, the first thing is obviously financial stability. Health and wellness is a big thing. Their productivity as people that sit within those organizations is a real thing. And their families, they're top of mind. So if we consider that, how are we planning for post-COVID realities in the things that we're doing right now? Well, there are 3 kind of pillars that we need to consider. The first one is thinking about your leadership and or management. Now, I consider this a very key thing to do because not only do businesses die, but they're unable to scale if you don't think about that middle layer, what I call the missing middle layer. And that missing middle layer really allows you to be able to scale your business from here to the next level. And so during COVID-19, provide them with extraordinary opportunities, right? That missing middle are the ones that you need to be able to give tasks. You need to challenge them. You need to get them to think about problems differently. All of those things are really critical if you're going to have a look at how they operate during COVID-19 to get the benefit of the value post COVID-19. The second thing is that we think about our processes, right? The curse of being an entrepreneur. Everything sits here and you have a clear sense of how it works in your head. And then you get someone to come work for you and you say, you need to do ABC. And he goes, cool, I can do ABC. He delivers ABC and you're going, no, man, that's not what I meant. And so you've got this misalignment between what they were supposed to deliver and what you have in your head. Small businesses, make sure you take what's out of your head, what's in your head out and codify it. Make sure your process has been very clearly defined such that it's very simple and easy for anyone to come and reference it, right? Once you've done that, make sure that people who are impacted by your process have got buy-in to the process. They understand how it works. They know it's valuable. Otherwise, it becomes just another thing that you're making them do. So when you codify the process, you get buy-in, you then use the process to liberate, right? You get people to work within the space of working from home or new environments or new circumstance in such a way that they liberate it. Not because they're now having to do it, but because they see the value in implementing the process. And then third, but most importantly, that's when you apply technology. When you think about technology and its role, you have to have thought about your middle management and your organization, your structure. You have to have thought about the processes that you have, and then the technology will work for you. Then the technology becomes an amazing enabler. You're able to get data, insights. You're able to implement stuff that allows you to be able to monitor, to communicate, to monetize. All of those things come once you've spent a lot of time critically evaluating where your organization is from a process perspective and from a people perspective. And then when we think about what happens after that is that we have to realize that our environment has fundamentally shifted. Now, we always used to talk about the CBD being Joburg or Sandton or Pretoria. And this concept of the CBD now is now the localized CBD. So everybody's kitchen table, everybody's study, everybody's place of work, wherever everybody is in your business, they have to convert that into productive workspace. And for us to get the benefit, we need to show up differently in these crazy times. For us, it's been important to think about the way that we check in with our team. We've got a 7 o'clock check-in, a 3 o'clock check-in in the afternoon. That's official business check-in. Then we've got a buddy system where people check in with each other to make sure that things are still okay. The way we run meetings has changed. They have to be shorter and more direct. So prepare for the meetings, have an agenda, have a direction. Why? You don't want people sitting for hours and hours and hours in front of the screens because it's not good for them. But secondly, it helps you be more directed. This 1 hour meeting thing is the bane of my life. It doesn't have to be an hour every time. It has to be fit for purpose. So when you direct people's energy and you get them to focus on what they need to do, it's a lot easier to manage that process. And then we need to think about, once we're doing that, how it is that we lead authentically. Now, in our case, we don't want to micromanage. We're not an organization that believes in standing, over you and making sure you're doing the work. We believe in liberating you, autonomy and delivery. But most importantly, if your process is not in place, it's very difficult to achieve that. So we always have this struggle between servant leadership and high performance. Sometimes these things tussle, but it's part of our culture. And we have to stay true to this as we're leading people to start getting to a point where they feel and they believe that they can contribute to our business in an authentic way and an inspiring way. Because for us, that's really where the value comes from, working with young people in this space. So the last thing I'd love for you to do is just to reflect on the journey that we've come on. There's been a number of different things that we've discussed. And the first thing that we did is that we spoke about the process of stabilization. You've been punched in the face and you need to stabilize. You need to figure out, did you get hit by 4, faces or 1? You're just doing all of that because you're trying to figure out how you stabilize. And you stabilize by asking yourself some questions relating to what economic curve are we on and what curve is in our sector? How do I focus in on my decisions? What are the horizons that apply? That's a big part of stabilization. Once you stabilize, you're now assessing, thinking about, okay, cool, I got punched in the face, now what do I do? That's a look in the mirror to be able to understand, you have a high mental agility, a mental resolve, and a high implementation agility, or any one of those quadrants in between, because that point of view will allow you to understand how you innovate. Are you going to need sustaining innovation? Are you going to need breakthrough innovation? Are you need basic research? All those innovation pipelines are ways that you start to look yourself in the mirror and think about your way forward. And then it's the pivot, right? Thinking about how you move in a different direction, and your starting point is equally important. And so your pivot says to you, I need to go there, or you need to go there. And as a result of that, you understand proficiency of your delivery, as well as the relationships that you have. And then hopefully growth. Post-COVID-19, you want to be amazing. We all want to be amazing. And you have to think about your middle management layer. You have to think about your processes that sit in here, and you have to think about the technology that you apply. And that's critical for us to be able to make this thing work. So ladies and gentlemen, the thing I'll leave you with is a great quote by a guy by the name of Charles Darwin, and he spoke about, it is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent. It is the most adaptable to change. So I'll put it to you, it's not the strongest of entrepreneurs, nor the one with the biggest balance sheet. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. And so I wish you all the best on this journey. I know it's tough, I know it's difficult, but with the adaptation model, you can survive this really uncertain time. Good luck.
This summit is brought to you by I Am an Entrepreneur in association with FNB and our partners.
Thank you very much, Musa. Thank you very much for that, my good sir. That was absolutely amazing. Doesn't he speak too fast for you? I don't know if I'm the only one, but when he starts rolling, I'm trying to catch on things. I'm trying to jot down notes. I'm trying to catch up with him, and it takes a bit of a while. But the good thing is we have him live here with us to answer all of your questions. MK, how are you, sir?
Hey, how you doing? Are you well?
I'm very strong, my boy. I'm very, very strong. I'm going to go straight into the Q&A because we don't have a lot of time and there's a lot of them. The first question is, what is the risk of placing technology before process? So you spoke about this leadership process, and on process you talked about taking things out of our heads and making sure we codify. I'm sure all of us are guilty of that. We know how to get it done, but the minute we hire people, we get so frustrated that they're not doing it the way we want it. But many of us don't think about writing that down, and we just want to put the technology today. We want to go digital today. What is the risk of placing the technology prior to working out the process?
So there's two key risks, Andile. The first one is, obviously, when you think about technology, most of the time it comes at a cost, right? So if you're going to be making these investments into technologies where you haven't really understood what the technology needs to solve for, you end up investing money in things that potentially never bring value to your organization. The second thing is that you don't have the same appreciation of how to understand what technology you need if you haven't been clear about the processes. Now, in certain organizations, you've got very complex processes, and in some you have very simple processes. So you can't compare a manufacturing company's process to someone that is essentially baking and selling magwinya on the street. Very different. And so when you think about technology, you might need to have a very different approach for that. When we went through the process, we had to define 8 core business processes that we understood end to end. And from that, we could see very clearly when we looked at all the available technologies, which ones matched those so that it made sense from a financial perspective and we knew it was going to solve the problem. So that's the risk that you run if you don't.
Okay, all right. So document your processes, take them out of your head onto a piece of paper, then ask yourself, what's the technology that's going to allow me to do these processes quicker, faster, cheaper? Maya's got another question here for you. What if I am not sure if my plan to pivot will work? Do I just take the chance and risk business closure? Is there a method that I can use to, I guess, to make the decision? So, and I think this is a big one. A lot of industries, Musa, who just, they don't know what pivot looks like. I mean, there's a lot of guys from tourism that I hear where pivot just sounds like, what do I do? You know, I've got a B&B. I need people to come here. They can't come here.
Yeah. Yeah, the concept of the pivot is interesting because I think that, the model I shared had 4 steps. And the important thing is the first 2 steps, which are discovery and validation. So that initial discovery phase is when you sit there as an entrepreneur and you think, wow, there's an opportunity here, or there's something that's come to mind about this customer. And that discovery is trying to figure out whether that customer is a real customer. The validation piece is making sure that whatever it is that's in your head, they'll pay for, or the value you want to create actually is something that will solve a problem for them. And so you kind of do this dance between customer discovery and validation for a while until you realize whether what you've got in your mind or what you got as a service, someone is actually willing to pay for, and it'll become a product. Then you move into the space where you develop an actual customer and an actual business. So when you think about the pivot, think about those 2 initial steps, because if you get them right, it reduces your risk further down. But if you don't think about them quite critically in the beginning, you might end up wasting a lot of time, to your point, going down a particular route, and it doesn't actually yield value for your organization. So when they talk about this design thinking, really it's about the discipline of spending that time discovering the customer and validating them. That's really an important process. And I think not enough time is spent doing that as a lot of small businesses. And a lot of it's because we have to move quickly, we have to get things done, and we often skip that step. We think, oh, geez, we should do this thing quickly, and we do it, and then we try and we go get flyers, print a billboard, blah blah blah, and we've never validated that customer actually exists. So that's the challenge. But that's the way you get around it in the beginning. Do the dance between validation and customer discovery until you're comfortable that is an actual thing.
All right. Before you go, Tula had a question. Now I've lost Tula's question. Oh, sorry, Tula. Maya's question I've already asked. There we go. Tula, how do I get people to embrace change, particularly adopting to technology? Yeah. It is very clear that if you do not infuse technology into your business, you will not survive. Ultimately, you need people, though. How do I bring them across? This is the $1 million question for me.
Well, if I had the answer to that, I'd be a very wealthy man. But I can give you my own experience, right? So the thing with change is that you're fundamentally asking people to do something that is completely different to what they're used to doing, and that's human nature. Humans don't like to change. Doesn't come naturally to us. We just get better at understanding how it works. So my whole thesis is that you should start first and foremost by creating a level of urgency around the change that you need, right? So in the beginning, people have to understand that there's an imperative here to do things differently. That level of urgency would either be created internally or sometimes it will be created externally, aka coronavirus, right? Coronavirus created a level of urgency within organizations that nobody had ever thought would be able to do. And when you have that level of urgency, you have a high appreciation of what you need to do to be able to survive, right? And that level of urgency kind of lays the groundwork for the things you need to do. The second thing, when you're trying to get people to change, is you have to bring them on the journey, right? The journey of change means that the first point is that acknowledging that where you're at is not ideal, right? And if people don't all buy into that, then everything else becomes academic. If you can acknowledge that where we are is not ideal, then you start initially asking the question, then where do we need to be? And if people in your organization are asking that question, where do we need to be, you're already unlocking their mind to the possibility of moving in a different direction. And then you need to have a very clear roadmap of how you say, right, we all agree that where we are is not ideal. We all agree that there's a place we need to be. Therefore, this is what we need to do to get there. And then you just need to reinforce that on a regular basis and get them to go along on that journey. So the starting point is sense of urgency, and then that moment of reflection in your business that where we are is not ideal, and then be very clear about the roadmap of where we need to get to by step to arrive at the new place.
Perfect. One more question live from our participants who are joining us is Spumelele Smego, who has a question for you. Go ahead, Spumele.
Thank you, Andile. Hello, Musa. I I co-founded a company called Limu Lab, and it's a digital learning service for kids where they learn local languages through animation, storytelling, and music. So
Nice.
in terms of your process, right? Because I'm exactly at that point. How do you know if your process that's in your head makes sense to what you're looking to do? And then when is the best time for trial and error? That's really what I'm trying to figure out still.
Yeah.
When the best time for that is, yeah.
So
Thanks,
that's a great question. The way you test your process is you try and almost, and it sounds a bit counterintuitive because it sits in your head, you can almost do it without thinking about it. The way you test it is you try and do each step one at a time, right? So you've now said, I've taken it out of my head, and let's say there are 5 steps to this process. I start here and I end here. You need to go through each step one at a time, because what typically happens because of expertise is that you do it quickly and you don't realize it's one step at a time. And when you do it one step at a time, you start to appreciate whether it's an actual thing or it's not an actual thing. So when you expose someone else to it and they go, okay, what happens at this step? Then you can appreciate the frustration of them going, I don't understand what you mean. I need to get to this point. So I think that's a really critical thing for you to, also become more empathetic about potentially what you know already. Because the people that you'll bring into your business are not starting from the same place of your experience, your knowledge, your travel, your worldview. They don't have any of that. So stepping through each step of that process, one step at a time, as pedantic as it seems, is a really important way to kick the tires around your process. The second thing is obviously people that are going to be impacted by that process need to believe that it's actually adding value and not inhibiting them. Now, once again, we are human beings. Most of us don't have any time, we don't have time to do anything. And therefore, adding a process is creating frustration. So you need to switch the view that the process liberates and doesn't constrain. And the way you do that is to get people to believe that it actually produces a better outcome if I follow the process than if I don't. Because it also gets them to be able to commit to it and do it properly over time. So that's kind of my view in terms of how you approach the process. The second question you asked was regarding the frustration.
I actually had a question about scale, but you actually answered it in your presentation. So this one about process was really important for me. So really great.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Spoolman. Thanks for coming up with that question. Musa, always appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much for your time. For those who want to get a hold of Musa, I'm seeing a lot of comments and questions about that. It's on the chat. Musa, if you don't mind putting more details of how people can get hold of you on the chat, just so that everybody can exactly do that. Wow, how amazing was that? I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We're going to move on, though, because I want to make sure that I get you out of here on time like I promised. And next up is our friends from Google. It's been a great journey for I'm an Entrepreneur with Google. And today we've got Basetsana and Sachin. And they are going to be helping us with how do we use technology from Google to support our pivot, right? This is technology that's available online. Many people are using it, but let's not assume that everybody knows how to use it, right? So there's no use being ready to pivot your business and heading to your next if you don't know how to build and grow your business with an online presence. And of course, Google is the world leader on that. So ladies and gentlemen, after this break, you will hear from Basetsana Motsapi and Sachin Pillay, both in the digital growth section of Google Africa. Over to you guys.
Hello, everyone. My name is Basetsana Motsapi, and I'm a digital growth consultant at Google, working closely with the sub-Saharan African region. Welcome to today's session on Google My Business. Now, the modern day consumer is one that is categorized by a number of traits, one of which is curiosity. We are research obsessed due to the unlimited access we have to information. Thanks to digital, then mobile, and increasingly smart devices in our homes, on our TVs, in our cars, we have the ability to ask for answers and advice from everywhere about anything. Now, nearly 9 in 10 smartphone users are not absolutely certain of the brand that they want to buy from prior to beginning their researching journey online. And in order to identify their next buy or the brand that they would seek out, we see consumers researching the ins and outs of products, of features, of activities, even going so far as to research what to avoid. Another characteristic of the modern day consumer is that they're demanding. Not only are they empowered with more information, but they also want better information and better experiences too. The modern day consumer does not want to be treated like one of the masses, but rather wants to be treated with a personal touch, with messaging that is tailored specifically to them, not only as a person, but also as a person in a particular situation. Now, the last characteristic of a modern day consumer is that they're impatient. Mobile searches for near me, for now, and for open have grown by over 200% over 2 years. People want to find exactly what they need right when they're ready to act on it. And the modern day consumer has a right now mindset with an expectation to get things immediately. Amongst these things are your products and services. Now, as a business owner, it is pivotal to your business's success and growth to connect to this modern day consumer. Google My Business is a platform that helps you to achieve this. Now, what is Google My Business? It is the tool that helps you to create and manage your business's profile online. And it is the tool that helps businesses to surface when customers are looking for them in Google Search and Google Maps. Having a Google My Business profile increases the likelihood of attracting visitors to your physical location, as well as the likelihood of purchase. So now that we understand what Google My Business is, why Google My Business? And for 3 reasons. Because it helps you to stand out in order to attract new customers. It helps you to engage with customers and to build loyalty. And it also helps you to discover and understand how people search for you and how they might be interacting with your profile and your business. Now take the example of natural skincare and hair care brand, Native Child. Native Child understands that customers compare profiles of businesses when making decisions. And they make it count every time someone is looking for them on search or on Maps by making sure that they share fresh information about their business on Google. In this case, the brand is sharing up-to-date address information, their phone number, a link to their website, open hours, and more to help customers find their business. They keep their profile current and exciting by sharing fresh photos, special offers, and promotions too. Now, Google My Business enables you to engage with customers, and it allows for this interaction in a number of ways. Customers can share stories, can leave reviews, and reach out to local businesses to inquire right from their mobile devices. Like Native Child, your brand and business can join in conversation with customers. You can be the first to know when a new review goes up and to respond to offer your perspective, to fix a problem, answer a question, or simply say thank you to a happy customer. It is possible to interact with customers using the Google My Business messaging tool via the Google My Business app, which is available for both iOS and Android. Within the app, there is a tab labeled Customers, and you can turn on direct messaging between you and customers here. Remember to switch on notifications for messages in order to ensure timely alert and response to messages. Finally, Google My Business provides you with insights to see what's working. Insights give you key information about how people are finding your business and what type of information they're looking for so that you can attract new customers. You can track important actions like the number of times someone has searched for your business, the number of times they viewed your photos and your posts, the number of times they may have called your business or even sought after directions. You can learn where your customers geographically are coming from and what days of the week brings about the most activity, and more. Now that we've covered the what and the why of Google My Business, let's go on to how you too can create a profile. In order to set up, you will start by heading on over to the Google My Business website on business.google.com. As we go through these steps, do feel free to pause the live stream in order for us to work through them together. The first step would be to add your business name. If while typing your business name, it pops up and it is indeed your business, feel free to select it from the list in order to claim and take ownership of the existing profile. If it's not popping up, enter your business name and then select Next. The second step is to select a business category that best fits your brand or business. If you are unable to find an exact match, try to identify the category that comes closest to your primary business category. The third step is to specify your physical location. If you are operating from home or you're an e-commerce store, you might wish to not reflect your address. Fortunately, you don't have to. And in this case, we will opt into not displaying our address. Next, you would want to specify the area that you serve. In my case, I'm based in Bloemfontein and I would enter Bloemfontein. You have the option of selecting more specific geographic locations or expanding it to a country level. You also have the option of selecting multiple countries. The final step would be to link your Google My Business profile to an existing website, or if you don't have a website, to select Get a Free Website in order to create one based on the information in your profile. You can also feel free to add a contact number at this stage. And there we have it. Those are the most important steps that will need to be undertaken in order to create a Google My Business profile. Next, I'm going to take you through 1 or 2 additional pointers for verifying your business and creating a free website for your business. In order to verify your affiliation or ownership of the business, we recommend adding an address to your profile. This does not mean that your address will be shown if you had chosen no in the location selection earlier on. It is simply for the purposes of proving ownership. After entering address details, you will be asked to verify your profile. You can either verify your profile by mail or select the option to verify your profile later. If going with the verify later option, it is crucial to follow through on this verification. Without this, the business profile may not appear and you might not have full access to all the functions on Google My Business, as well as the ability to update your information within your profile. You have the option to verify with Sub-Saharan Africa's featured partner, Africa 118. Visit google.africa118.com and obtain assistance by requesting a callback or calling Africa 118. More information on how to take on this process is also available on the Google My Business website. Lastly, in case you don't have a website or you chose to create a free website whilst you were creating your Google My Business profile, it is possible to go from having no online presence to being present in less than 10 minutes. And this can be undertaken within the Google My Business website by selecting the website tab on the left. You have the option of changing up the design of your website as there are several themes. And like I mentioned earlier, the information is sourced from your Google My Business profile. So opening times, photos, and top reviews will all be sourced from there and pulled into your new website. Once again, a reminder that in order to complete and allow for full functionality of your Google My Business profile, it is essential to reach out and get verified. Verify with our featured partner, Africa 118, on google.africa118.com. Thank you all for your time, and I look forward to seeing all of your businesses online.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to a crash course on Google Ads. My name is Sachin, and I'm a digital growth strategist at Google for Sub-Saharan Africa. In the next few minutes, I'll be taking you through the power of Google Ads, as well as how to easily set up your first smart campaign. First and foremost, at Google, we believe that managing your business is already a full-time job. But advertising your business online shouldn't have to be. We want to present you with effective solutions that are easy to manage so that you can actually go back to focusing on the daily running of your business. Before we go ahead, I'd like to answer the following question. So why Google search? You see, search is a strong indicator of intent. Think about it. When you want to find out more about something, what do you do? When you're wanting to look for something, what do you do? And even if you're wanting to visit a website, more often than not, where do you go to first? You search on Google. In fact, nowadays, we don't just search with our fingers, we search with our voice assistants too. And from a business point of view, Google search provides an opportunity to meet customers when they're actively looking, which I think is super important. Let's look at an example, Matosa. This homegrown and local brand is one of the biggest success stories coming out of South Africa at the moment.
My inspiration behind my course site was to create a range of knitwear that celebrates my traditional culture. I take simple motifs which I reference from museums around South Africa and translate them into modern patterns and designs. Now today we've grown to employ 30 people, so I feel proud that I'm doing my part as a South African to confront unemployment. Google has changed the way that I foresee the future of my brand. Half of our website visits have come from Google. And Google My Business has led to an increase of people visiting our stores. Someone would search for African fashion and our search would be high up where people can just press a button and purchase. What Google is offering is an exciting evolution that is happening globally. It feels epic to have Americans buying our brands that I used to watch on TV and now I watch them modeling our clothes. It feels unbelievable. Google are helping me achieve my dream of taking my Xhosa culture to the rest of the world.
For maXhosa, searching activity provides an opportunity to convert intent and interest into business, which at the end of the day is what we're really here to talk about. Whenever someone searches for their brand specifically, or whenever someone is looking for African fashion in general, these are Google search opportunities for business. Here are some of our campaign types mapped out in a sales funnel. From top to bottom, we see display ads, YouTube ads, search ads, and shopping ads. However, for today, we're going to be focusing on the do section, advertising on search, and more specifically, smart campaigns. Here's an example of how these ads look. In this example, Tsepo Jeans wants to ensure that for every relevant search, they provide an opportunity for people to click through to their site and make an online purchase. The highlighted ad is what we'll show you how to set up today. Cool, so let's get talking about how to actually set up a smart campaign in a matter of minutes. Remember, smart campaigns are specifically designed for small business owners. They are incredibly effective as they don't require much skill or time to set up, and are actually very simple to manage. Here's how we begin the setup process. Remember, to get to this point, you would need to have had created a Google Ads account and click to create your first campaign. Select the goal that would make this campaign successful for your business. If you're an online retailer like maXhosa, you'd want to select sales. But if you're wanting to collect customer details to follow up with a call, you'd select leads, etc. Then select campaign type as smart campaign. Pretty self-explanatory. And then specify the action you want your customers to take. For example, calls to your business, visits to your stores, actions on your website. Cool, so the next step is entering your actual business name and website. We hope by this stage that you know the name of your business, but don't stress, if you don't have a website, you can actually create a free one with Google My Business. The next step would then be entering the locations where you'd like your ads to actually showcase. In this example, we've selected Nairobi. You can choose to set up a radius around your business too. For example, a business can ensure that their ads are only serving to people within a 5-kilometer radius of their physical store. If your business offers a service in Durban, you wouldn't want to serve your ads in Cape Town. You can also then see the estimated number of people on Google search for that targeted population. Next, you'd want to select keyword themes. Think of these as potential searches that you'd like to match your ad to. In this example, we're a web design company and we're selecting themes such as creating a website, web designer, to trigger our ads. Next, we create our actual ads. Start by describing your products or services, or include a few special offers, to your customers. You must create both headlines and descriptions, the sort of stuff to help your business stand out. Importantly, there's a preview on the right-hand side of your screen too, so you can see exactly how your ads will look when they do eventually serve. The next step would be the really important one of setting your daily budgets. You should always select a daily budget that makes sense for you and your business. Remember, you only pay for ad clicks or calls to your business, not for every time someone just sees your ad. And it's not like you're committing an investment into a black hole. You'll always be able to come back and measure what exactly your money did for your business. The next step is an overview into the settings you've just chosen. You'll then be able to also see the estimated performance of your ad too. Also note, if available on the same page, you'll be able to add your phone number and link your Google My Business account, as these offer tracked actions such as verified calls and map actions. Lastly, you'll add your payment info. And that's it, you're good to go. Congrats, that's literally your first smart campaign. I think the best part about advertising digitally is the ability to actually really measure your performance. Here in your account, you can see exactly how your campaigns are performing. Metrics include impressions, clicks, map actions, calls to the business, etc. You can then download the Google Ads app on your iOS or Android device to monitor the performance too, in the palm of your hand. And lastly, if you'd like the assistance, you can go to google.africa118.com, and our partner, Africa118, will assist you in setting up and managing your ads account. Even if you already have an account, they'd be able to assist in optimizing it. The details can be seen on the screen. And that's it. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing your business online.
This summit is brought to you by I Am an Entrepreneur in association with FNB and our partners.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you very, very, very much, Abasi and Sachin, for that. Very useful tools for you to use, Google My Business and also the search option. And I've already seen a lot of questions coming for everybody. So let's have Basi and Sachin now join me on stage so that we can get through all of the questions. For anybody that would like any contact with the Google team, you got those details from Africa 118. The guys will also put those details on the chat group so that you are able to contact them if you need more questions. If you have more questions. If you have a question that's already been asked in the questions tab, remember all you have to do is vote it up and that question will go up first. Hello guys, welcome back. My first question is actually coming from the WhatsApp group, right? Those are the guys that are streaming live from the I'm an Entrepreneur website. And the question is, other than spending a ton of money on Google AdWords, how can I ensure my business comes up in the first page of Google search results when people search for herbal supplements, for example? This is now a question from Sandy, who's streaming live from imanentrepreneur.co.za. Any of you guys can take that.
Alrighty. Awesome. Thanks for the question, Andrea. And I think the first thing to note is that at least from the Google My Business side, it is possible for you to still be showing on the results page for free when someone is searching something related to your business or the business itself. So in that way, there is no kind of monetary investment that's tied to that. So it is possible for you to be showing up on both Google Maps and Google Search itself for free by just having a Google My Business profile.
Yeah, and then I think from the advertising point of view, I think I'd like to also sort of dispel the myth that a big business can sort of just spend more than you and all of a sudden also surface ahead of you. And from an advertising perspective, it's really important that every auction or every search, is sort of treated individually, right? And what happens is the algorithm also determines the information match between what it is you're actually searching and the information on your website. So there's a lot more to it other than just spending a ton of money to actually surface first.
All right, great stuff. Thanks for that. And you guys had a question at a point. I saw in the video that Matosa said he gets 50% of his website's visits from Google. Now, that's a huge, huge amount. I mean, everybody knows the brand. You would think that people just go to their website as opposed to search. Give us the tips. How can I get more people to find me and more people to get to my website and actually make a sale? Because that's the other issue, right? People may come to the website, but they may not necessarily transact. How can I get them to transact?
Cool. So I know with also specifically, it's an all-encompassing digital strategy too. So what we actually see is the consumer behavior. Whether it's they featured in the news or they featured in a magazine article, is that translates into Google searches. So for them, it's really important, for them to actually use those searches as an opportunity to actually convert those into customers. And importantly, with using ads as a tool too, and it's perhaps a little more complex from how you would set it up from that point of view. But the algorithm can also determine how likely people are to actually purchase. So, you can see how often people have purchased online in the past, how often they're visiting that site. Perhaps, they're adding to cart and not necessarily checking out. So those are all sort of signals taken into account. And that's the perfect person to serve an ad to, because they are obviously more likely to actually go on to purchase and, bring money at the end of the day to the business. I think we lost Andile for a second. Maybe we can look at the chat. I do see there are a few questions popping up there. Let's have a look. So, Africa 118, the details. We can definitely pop that back in the chat.
100%.
I'll do that. I will pop those back into the chat. And basically, Africa 118 can assist both with Google My Business and your Google Ads account setup. So it's super important. And it's a free service. I saw there was another question around there. I see another question there popping up around the US dollars. No. So actually, if you're doing that from a South African perspective, you will be billed in rands, but all of that will also be sort of surfaced when you do contact Africa 118.
There was also a question at least around whether we study at Google University Online. And from an education perspective, that's definitely a good route to go. So there is something that's called Google Ads Academy. And through this, you can really undertake a good learning from start to finish around all the things that you need to know for your Google Ads advertising. But with smart campaigns, which Sash would have presented a little bit earlier, the process is really simple to follow. So you don't need too much kind of knowledge in order to undertake opening your own account and getting started on Google Ads.
Yeah. So I think what is going to actually happen is I see there that this recording is going to be made available. So you'll be able to come back and go through those steps again. But, contacting Africa 118, I see a bunch of questions being asked about the actual process and setting it up would be your best bet. So Africa 118 can walk you through the entire process and also verify your physical address, which I think is super important. And we have it back.
Indeed.
Great timing. Well done. You guys, you could do this job for me anytime. Apologies, everybody, for that. That's what technology can do for you at times. Now, you may have covered the question, but I'm going to ask it again. I know you've covered a lot of questions in the comment line. Thank you for that. Let's talk about budgets because, Google always says, it's however much you have, and it feels like it's accessible, but many of us feel like, you should have more money for you to get better results. Is that true?
Yeah.
So I'll take this one, Sash, not necessarily. Yeah. And it really is true to the fact that whatever you do have as a starting point is good enough to start utilizing the product. So like Sash would have mentioned a little bit earlier, when it does come down to the fact that Google tries to prioritize making sure that it's not only the bigger players that win by making sure that we do take into consideration things around the quality of the information that you're providing to users, both on your website and also in the contents of your ads themselves, in order to match this up to the user's query. So that's saying that you could have, 1,000 Rand to spend on Google Ads and you could have 100 Rand to spend. There is that consideration around who service is best matched to what the user is looking for. And that's what we prioritize, just to make sure that it wouldn't just be a question of outbidding, but rather it is a focus on making sure that we're providing useful information to users and information that is relevant to them.
And I think maybe just to add to that too, with regards to, setting your budget for a Google Ads perspective, it's definitely, to consider it as an investment. We need to start talking about stuff like ROI. It's not just this idea of, putting money towards something and not necessarily knowing what it does to your business. Google's made a big focus on being able to come back and measure exactly what it translates into. So, from an advertising perspective too, and perhaps further down the line, once more of a seasoned advertiser, you can see exactly for every R1 spent what that would translate into, if it's, e-commerce revenue on your website specifically. And, when it becomes a return on investment decision, you can obviously allocate the amount of funds, which makes sense for your business, and you can also anticipate the sort of uplift from revenue on your website too.
But many people also talk about search engine optimization. Some people know what that means, some don't. And I've heard that, there's a special way you should write your certain copy on your website so that you can rank up there. Is that a service of Google's? Do I have to go and pay somebody to do it?
Sure. Yeah, I can take that too. So yeah, Google doesn't offer that service directly. I know that many service providers do offer that, in the South African space. But the sort of difference there is that, we actually saw a study recently. Bussy and I were reading a study, and it shows you that, a combination of good SEO, search engine optimization, and, and advertising actually increases the likelihood of sort of e-commerce transactions on your website by up to 2 times. So, prioritizing both is super important, and not, over-indexing on one.
All right, you guys. Let's leave it there for now. Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause, a digital round of applause for Basi and also Sachin. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining us.
Thanks so much,
much appreciated. We're going to keep it moving. Thank you so much. We're going to keep it moving because, as you know, we're getting closer to that time now when we need to talk to our guest entrepreneur. But before we do that, there is a poll that is waiting for you to take, especially when we're talking about things about getting things digitally. Not everybody is kind of on the same page. So I want to know. So click on your polls. It's just come up there at the bottom. And the question is, how do you feel after the session on Google My Business and Google Ads, right? Number 1, I was already a digital marketing guru. Number 2, I feel confident in setting up my GMB and smart campaigns. And number 3, I feel more comfortable, but I still have a lot of questions that can be arranged. And number 4, I need an expert to help me set everything up. And that may be where some of us are. Please answer as honestly as possible so we know what kind of support many of you guys need so that we can continue to provide you that support. I must tell you, as you're finishing the poll, that Google has tons and tons of online platforms that can help you do this yourself. Many a time, people are really, taking advantage of you guys as entrepreneurs and charging you tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, for you to do something you can actually do yourself. So do yourself a favor, Google the videos and the various tutorials that Google has online that can help you do this stuff yourself, right? And I'm very happy that there's more people feeling confident of doing it themselves. Some people are more comfortable, but they've got more questions. And we'll make sure that the Google guys share as much information as possible. By the way, keep in mind, if you have any questions about any of the content covered here, info@imanentrepreneur.co.za. info@imanentrepreneur.co.za. That's the email address you send, and the guys will connect you with the relevant people that you would need, whatever further information you have. So don't be too concerned if you didn't get everything in this one particular session. Right. It is that time when we need to now move on to chatting to a man who has actually done what we are all talking about, right? He's actually done it. His name is Donald Baloyi. He is the chief executive and co-founder of Zulzi. Now, with the bad comes the good. That's the reality of life. And with COVID-19 and this pandemic and all of us being stuck indoors and being encouraged to stay at home, came the opportunity for us, all of us, to think about how can we continue to live digitally. And there is a grocery delivery app started by a young black man from Limpopo, Noga. It's called Zulzi. He started it in 2016 and put his own money to it, kind of saw it through step by step. He's now raised over 30 million rands of funding from a JSE listed company that has now supported the development of the product and has also now put Zulzi on the map. If you could join me, please, on stage, Mr. Donald Baloyi, I would truly appreciate it. And this conversation is really about the journey of an entrepreneur who's built everything from scratch, right? Somebody who's taken the time to build something from the beginning to what it is today. So in a few moments' time, I'll be having him join me on stage, and we'll talk a little bit more about what it has taken for him to get where he needs to be. If you've got any questions whatsoever, you know what to do, right? You go to the questions tab, ask a question, and you just drop your questions. As he and I are talking, question is coming up. There's no need for you to jot it down. You just put it in the ask a question. If there is a question, of course, that's already been asked, just vote for it, and it will come right up. Mr. Baloy.
Yes, sir. How are you?
You know Zulu, right? So I used to read your surname Valoy until I was told, hey, doing this wrong. It's Baloy, but apparently it's not Baloy. It's a B. It's a B.
Yeah, with a V. Yeah, Valoy.
With a V.
Yeah, with a V.
How are you, my good sir?
I'm good, and how are you, Andile?
Well, you better be good. Your app is killing it. How are you feeling right now? Before we go to the beginning, how's things right now?
Look, there's always a lot of pressure. It might look like everything's fine, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. But it's okay. I think growth is good. Growth is always good, you know? So yeah, we're coping.
Is that the nature, though, of building a digital business? Are you always having to invest in the tech?
You always have to. You can't stop, you know? From day one, you always have to invest in the tech. You have to attract the best talent. And yeah, and then you have to compete with all these big giants as well, you know, for talent. So yeah, it never stops.
Wow. Okay, let's go to the beginning, because most of us aspire to be like you. Most of us want to have a business that I could be, you know, sitting in the beach in Mauritius and people are using my app to order their groceries and I don't have to know about it, you know? I don't have to answer a call. I don't have to reply to an email. I don't have to do anything. The thing just runs itself. Let's go to the very beginning. By the way, that's our view of your business. I'm sure it's nothing like that, but at least we think it's that romantic.
Yeah, no, definitely it's not like that.
Let's go. Let's go to the beginning.
Yeah.
What were you doing before this? And how did you even come up with this thing?
Yeah, look, I think, you know, like I used to work at F&B as a developer, like back in those days, when this idea of like starting an online store came, you know. And then Zuzi started as an online e-commerce platform. We were selling books and electronics to students, focusing in all the major universities in South Africa. And yeah, and when we were doing that, I realized that the segment or the market that we're in was very small. You know, I always wanted to build something big, you know. And I became realistic that I'm not going to be able to build something that is highly scalable at that time. That was in 2014, actually, when we started Zuzi. And yeah, like after 2 years, and then we decided to iterate to something like bigger with more categories. And that's the Zuzi that we know now, which is the Zuzi platform.
Musa spoke earlier on, and I'm sure you were online and listening to him. And he talked about leadership, he talked about building processes, and then he said, then you overlay the technology. When you build a consumer application, I would imagine you must have spent a lot of time just designing the thing, even before building the technology. Take us through that journey and how important that is.
Yeah, look, I think it was very important. In fact, in the beginning, I think we had a lot of people who come in, you know, give us input, you know, to say, you must do things like this. We almost made a mistake of taking too long, you know, because most of the people as well is you take too long to build a product, but only to find that the users don't want to use it the way you thought they would want to use it, you know. So I think one of the most important thing is build a product and get it out as quickly as possible to the market so that the customers can tell you, right, what they think about your product. It doesn't have to be as perfect, you know, it just needs to work and be able to do the basic things. So I think for us in the beginning, we made a mistake of wanting to perfect the product, but we actually realized even when it was out, it was still not perfect, you know. So the key thing is build and get it out so that the customer can tell you if the product is what they want or if they can use it.
But aren't you scared that, you know, if you build it and it's not perfect and you're putting it out there and your name is next to it, like if it sucks, people never forget the experience that it sucked. Aren't you scared?
I think the first thing is in the beginning, you're not gonna have a, you know, like, I mean, in our case, you know, like initially before we started, we used to think, you build this product, you take it out to the market, and then the next thing you're gonna have like 20,000 people using your platform. The truth is, you might not have anyone using it. Like the first weeks you could have 1 or 2 people, and the key thing is those people should be the ones giving you the feedback, should be the ones that you have to interact all the time to tell you how they want to use your platform. So for me, like, don't be afraid when you're building an online platform. You're gonna have like hundreds and thousands of people just coming in from day one. You're gonna launch a product, and if you're lucky, you're gonna have like 2 or 3 people using your product, and that's what we went through as well. And also like making sure that we are very much hands-on on these things in the beginning. Like I used to do the deliveries by myself, go to customers, get the customer feedback, and we'll go back and iterate and change things, accordingly. So being in touch with the customers is very, very, very important in the early stages for a business. Also, when you grow as well, you mustn't lose that touch as well.
Okay, so you then design this thing. You want this thing to be a grocery app, but you also have to think about how do you build technology. A lot of people out there, I've heard, they go to China, or in fact, the popular one is India, to go and ask developers to go and build the tech. Would you advise that? What's been your experience about outsourcing the development, perhaps to other countries?
Look, I think the biggest thing is you have to decide if you see yourself as a technology company. Like, for instance, with what we do, we're a technology company. We don't have a physical store, so technology is very important. So it's not something you can outsource when it's like that. Besides, even if you were to outsource, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Remember what I just said, like get your product out as quickly as possible, because you need user feedback. So the truth is, when you're building the first time, when you take your product out, you realize that there's a lot of things that you don't need, and you're going to have to scrap that and build another thing. So imagine a situation where you have now paid a lot of money to these guys in India. Now you have to go back. They have to charge you again. Those guys, they don't play. You come back and you say, no, I don't need this feature. I need this other one. They will charge you for that. So you'll end up spending a lot of money, or you'll get to a point where you're like, no, I can't change this feature. We have to make it work with the users, and the users don't want it. So it's actually almost impossible to build a successful company that is in tech by outsourcing the tech. Because in fact, what you will see over time, you realize that the greatest weapon you have is actually the tech, because you are in technology. So for us, it was almost impossible for us to actually outsource the tech to any other company other than to build in-house expertise.
Okay, question from Ntai Jane on the Ask a Question tab. By the way, guys, feel free to throw in your questions on the Ask a Question tab. Ntai is asking, the solution makes absolute sense, right? And as a family man, I know Ntai, I'm sure it makes perfect sense. What was the turning point in your journey pre-COVID that convinced the masses of Zuzi?
Look, I think pre-COVID, I think the turning point was there was a time where we, like you are doing these things over and over again. I mean, when we started, first month, you're doing 100,000 Rand a month. And then this other day, I remember this other lady wrote something. She put something on Facebook, about this cool app, She posted in a group. I think it was about 5,000 moms in that group. And this is after we've been doing this over and over again,
Wow.
So like you have like customers that you are servicing, and you are giving them absolutely amazing service all the time. And it's not a lot of customers, which is key as well. Like when you're starting a business, you should not worry too much about like getting like thousands and millions of people from the word go. You must focus on a small number of people that you can service very well. The truth is, as you scale this, it requires different things that you might not even have money to accommodate for scale. You might not have the resources or even the systems to do that. So for us, in fact, once that lady posted about Zuzi, I woke up the following day and orders were just coming left, right, and center. Now all of a sudden, like even the drivers that we had, it was just not enough. So we had to go and look for a partner to help us with the deliveries, and that had to happen like within a week. So that was a turning point of the business. I mean, we moved from like, let's say at the time, from 300,000 a month to about 800,000 a month, like just overnight. So that changed the whole business. That changed the way we were doing things, and yeah, that became like something that was that taught us that scale comes with something. You need to be better prepared for scale. And don't rush it. If you rush it, you can fail your business by just rushing things that you're not ready for when it comes to systems and the people behind the scenes, because the orders still need to get fulfilled.
Wow. Okay. That must have been amazing. And do you think you were just lucky with that post from that lady, or were you already online? Were you already on Facebook? You already spreading the word, or was that just like luck?
Look, I think what validated what the lady said is because other customers were already using us as well, you know. So they were commenting and say, "Wow, we've been using this service and it's amazing," you know. So we had like few customers that were using us and they were happy with the service. And with that, you know, when someone posts something and everybody just comment and say, "You know what, we know of this service," so those people became our ambassadors, you know. So instead of us like talking about ourselves, we had people who really were buying into the brand. They loved the service that we're offering, and it made it easier, you know. So all the other people became convinced that this is the way to go, and they came online. So again, it's all about like building a product, sticking to a product, don't rush it, you know.
And when the complaints came, Donald,
Yeah.
that feeling of just being overwhelmed, like, hey, this is too much now. How were you able to get through that where you were like, okay, this thing is now getting really, really big. I now need to scale up the support I need in my team because it's a live app, it's a consumer app. I'm pretty sure there's going to be tons of complaints that came at some point.
Yeah, look, I mean, we deal with that all the time. You know, like I think, you know, when I look at it in terms of what we do for groceries are very are complex in their nature. You know, if you compare, let's say, the delivery platform for food from restaurants versus groceries, there's a lot of things that we have to go through. You know, and also like just the catalog that we have to manage as well is very different from like a restaurant with 100 items where we manage thousands and thousands of products. And those products are just different in their nature. And avocado is not the same, you know, for everyone. You know, others want it in different forms, different shapes, all of those things. So for us, we had to realize that at all these stages, for instance, back then we had to improve the customer service. And also another thing is with logistics as well. One thing I realized as well is when we use like a third party to fulfill our orders, I realized that a lot of startups out there, we are afraid. We think, you know, when you look at Uber, people think they are good at everything. You know, I learned my lessons then that no, actually, these guys, there's some guys who are just good at taking people and moving people from one place to another. When it comes to moving groceries, it's a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
And we struggled with that because at that time we used a third party to actually help us to deliver the groceries. Because those guys were used to actually deliver people, I remember some point they would call some of the customers and say, "Come outside to take your stuff," you know. In one case, one guy went to a customer who was in the 7th floor to say, "Hey, I've got your groceries, come downstairs to collect your stuff," you know. And he was angry. He's like, "You know what, I don't even enjoy doing this," you know. So those things then it was so bad, like, and we're used to offering like very good service back then, but it was just not possible because now we're using a third party and the guys were just not used to delivering groceries. But then I also learned that, yeah, like most of the time we spend a lot of time as small entrepreneurs worrying about you know, like other companies or even competitors to think, in this space, these guys will just come and do and actually just kill us, you know. So one of the things that is important when you're running a business is stay in your lane, focus on your product, perfect it, you know. Don't even be too concerned about competitors, you know. I like to say, you know what, no one's gonna murder you, you know. There's a 5% chance of you dying of murder, you know, but there's 95% chance of you dying of suicide. So stay in your lane, you know, focus on perfecting your platform, your product, and make it great.
All right.
You know, it will come.
Okay. All right, guys, let's turn into a poll real quick. Let's take a midway break. There is a poll coming up because we're quite interested in what you think about online shopping when it comes to groceries. Let's go. Let's try and participate as much as we can. How do we feel about online grocery shopping? All right. Here's an entrepreneur who's come up with a great platform. Do you love it and do it all the time? Are you nervous about trusting any online shopping? Or do you prefer to get in your car and go to the shops and shop yourself? Please participate in the poll so we can get as much input as possible about what do you guys as entrepreneurs think about online grocery shopping. Zuzi, of course, is a platform, but only one of many platforms. And with this lockdown, etc., are you feeling comfortable doing it? Or would you rather go and do it? And there you go. It looks like we've got about 53% saying they love it and they do it all the time. We still have 23% that say they're still a bit nervous about online shopping. And then another just short of 20% saying that they just prefer to go to the shop themselves. So please keep answering that poll so we can get as much feedback as possible. Now, Donald, let's talk about the propensity of South Africans to go online and do grocery shopping. This very poll we've just gone through. What is your experience? Are people getting more and more comfortable, or are people actually stuck in their ways?
Yeah, look, I think online has been growing, let's say 30% year on year. If we look at the overall retail, it's not been growing. So all in all, is obviously we don't expect everyone to move at the same time to move online. But what we can see, the clear signs are that everybody's going to be online very soon. The growth in the e-commerce space has just been encouraging. In fact, COVID-19 has also accelerated a lot of things as well in terms of online. And I can tell you right now that we expect the sales in the e-commerce space to double just because of COVID as well.
Wow. All right. I'm going to get through as many questions as I can here. I'm going to summarize Twine's question about outsourcing development. Do I outsource the development or do I do the development myself?
Look, I think it's key to build it's key to build an in-house expertise. If you can build it yourself, I think that's the way to go. But if it's not the key thing for your business, I think you can outsource. But if it's key, then keep it in-house.
All right, Donald. If you don't mind, later on, please put on the chat group there, Donald, if you've got any recommendations of local developers that you would recommend. A lot of guys are saying they want to talk to you because, a lot of people have bad experiences about developers. I've spoken about the India thing, but there's developers locally. So you might know a few through your networks. Please share them in the chat group a little bit later on if you don't mind. Theo Ngobeni says customer service is very important in my line of business. How do you scale and still maintain the same level of customer service? You've had to scale. You don't want the guys calling the customer saying to come and collect the groceries. How have you ensured that you can keep the customer service at the right levels, brother?
Look, I think most of the time when you are overwhelmed by maybe a lot of calls, customer service, it also highlights that there's some things that are broken in your systems, So some of the things that I've seen as well, even currently, that's some of the things that we're going through, where if there's something that's not working, maybe the refunds are not automated, then you get overwhelmed by those calls. So the key thing there is actually to fix the problem, in the customer service, as opposed to just adding more and more people, like if you look at some of the companies such as Uber, for instance, there's no customer service, there's no number to call most of the time. You're not going to call them because you know what, they've made sure that the systems are efficient. So you always have to strive for that. And that's why if you're in a technology business, it's important for you to make sure that your tech is on top of the game. Otherwise, if you don't have that, then you're going to struggle. You're going to get more and more calls, and you're going to have a huge call center that you can't even afford. So the tech then must be your weapon, where you can actually reduce the number of complaints by building systems where things are automated, all of those things.
Yeah, great point, Donald. Let's take a question from our WhatsApp line. Those are the guys that are streaming live at imanentrepreneur.co.za. Thanks for joining us. Lo Ngobo wants to know how to motivate your team to be proactive. And he says, I'm specifically referring to both employees and a business partner. Have you had to deal with getting the team to be focused on the matter at hand and to be proactive as opposed to just being reactive all the time? Your thoughts, Donald?
Yeah, the key thing is you must move with them. I think you have to share your vision. Once you share your vision, it becomes easier for people to understand, So it's very important that, even in the early days, with shoppers, drivers, there were times where things were very tough for us. We didn't even have money, to pay some of these guys. But I will show them the vision that, guys, this is where we're going. This is where things are going to be in a year or 2 years from now, So they become more responsible, So if you don't share the vision of where you're going, then it becomes a problem because people don't know where they're going. So people like to to see where they're going. Whether if it's someone who works in the customer service or someone with guard, they want to see that, you know what, there's future in this business, you know. Then they become more loyal, they become more proactive in how they do things.
All right, the question that's come up a lot, I've seen it from 3 people already. Busi, Fidel asked the same question. Deliveries to the townships. I'm pretty sure you've thought about this, Donald. I'm pretty sure you've thought about this left, right, and center. Many of the services don't go into the township. I can only assume they think there's a risk of sorts. What's your take? Will Zulzi ever do it?
Yeah, we want to do it. It's challenging. It's not as easy as delivering to you know, like to suburbs where address is, you know, things are simple there, you know. If you have to deliver something in the townships, the address is one of the key problems you're going to face there. So you have to fix that first. And also like how people pay, handling cash as well is a lot of it's very difficult to handle cash in the handling a huge amount of cash. It's a big problem. So you have to think about those things in terms of solving those problems.
Right.
But the key thing is, I think what's encouraging is I believe that if you fix that problem in the townships, then it's easier for you to scale to other African countries as well. So townships I think you know, where there are problems, there are opportunities. And I think if you can solve those problems that are in the townships, definitely you can make it big in the rest of the continent.
So can we hold you to that? When is Zulzi coming to the township?
Yeah, so I think by next year we'll start to pilot something in some of the townships. I think also another thing from our model, the pricing has to be right as well. So we're working on the pricing, making sure that the guys can do the right prices as well. Do things like batch delivery so that people can share delivery cost and actually pay nothing when it comes to deliveries.
Oh, perfect. My brother, we're going to have to leave it there. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a virtual round of applause to Mr. Donald Baloyi, an amazing, amazing entrepreneur who's really stuck this journey through and has done so well. I wish you all the best, my brother. And may we all 450 of us who are on this webinar today, may we all use Zulzi. Hey, I think you just got yourself 450 customers. I suspect half of them are already your customers. Thank you very much to Donald for that. Earlier on, I did promise you that Lita was going to do something special for you right at the end. Lita, please join me on and share your screen so that you can share this very special thing that you would like to share with the entrepreneurs. Guys, as Lita's getting on board, I want to thank you all for being here. It's been absolutely amazing. Technical glitches and all. I guess that's the nature. That's our new normal. That's the nature of things right now. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have a bit of a gift for you, courtesy of 3 Stick Men, that's going to capture the conversation we've just had. And Lita is now going to talk us through that particular outcome and how you and I have been able to capture today's session and how you and I can share with people that may perhaps have missed today's session and not been able to be here. Lita, are you ready?
I am ready, Andile. Thank you very much for being here. So at 3 Stick Men, we create pictures created in the moment to help people think through things and to help people remember. So what I've done in the last hour and a half is to make notes using pictures and words to kind of take out the insights and the learning from the various presenters. So first of all, Musa Kalenga spoke to us about how COVID was really a jab in the face. We didn't expect it, but we have a model that is shared with us to allow us to make sense of this. So he says, the first thing you have to do is you have to stabilize, make sense of what's happening in your industry, look at the macroeconomic curve, look at your industry curve, and then focus on what are those horizons. What do you need to defend? What do you need to extend? And how can you take it into blue sky thinking? Then the next step is to assess, take a good look in the mirror and figure out what does it actually mean? Be careful not to get stuck into nostalgia or stuck into pity party or becoming complacent, but really think about how you can innovate in order to get ready for the next level of growth. And then the third part of that is a pivot. It's about where you start. It's about proficiency and relationships. Discover your customer. And I love the example that he used around Uber Eats and their partnership with Exclusive Books. It might be necessary for your business to move into a new direction. And then finally, how do you grow? What can you do now? And he said, there's 3 things. Lead your people. Don't forget about the missing middle. Think about those processes. Get it out of your head and down onto paper and create productive spaces. There's a couple of Q&A, but I'm not going to go through that. You guys are welcome to go through that when we send out the artwork. And then we went over to Batsitsana and Sashin around Google My Business. They said that currently Our consumers are curious, they are demanding, they want to be treated like individuals, and they are impatient. They want stuff right now, that mindset. Now, the nice thing about Google My Business is this is an opportunity for you as a business to connect with this changing consumer. It will make you stand out. It will help you to engage with your customers and analyze what they do. And Batsasana spoke about Native Child as an example there. The nice thing about Google My Business is that it allows you to analyze your consumer behavior and really focus on where you want to focus your business. And then Sachin spoke to us about how do you set up the account. He created the example of Makosa, and you can see that 50% of their business comes from Google, which is amazing. And then you have the whole setup process at the bottom there that you can go through. And there's the support Google Africa 118 as well. And it's around not necessarily having a ton of money, but using what you have in the best possible way. And then our final presenter, if I can get to that graphic over there, Donald speaking about how he set up Zulzi. It's an online grocery delivery. It's complex. It's got low margins. He started off by selling books to students, but realized that the market was going to be too small. I think one of the main insights there is don't take too long to design. Get it working and get it out there so that your customers can give you the feedback. The growth in Take On allows you to learn, but being in touch with your customers is absolutely critical. And he spoke about the word of mouth, the Facebook page, the Facebook post that really created those ambassadors for Zulzi. Outsourcing could sometimes be expensive and inflexible. That's why they built it ourselves. And he said, choose your partners for their strengths. So focus on your product, focus on your service. Don't focus too much on the competition. And that is it from me. Thank you, Andile. We'll send this graphic through to everyone attending today, so you can look out for that in your inbox.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lita, once again. Appreciate that. So that's your gift. All of you guys will be getting it an email, exactly as Lita has said. So we'll send you that. You can keep it as a masterpiece of reminding yourself of what we went through today. Also, the recording of this webinar is going to be on the very same link you used to register. So you can send people there if somebody else wants to watch or you want to remind yourself, not a problem. And later on, obviously, on the I'm an Entrepreneur website. Thank you to everyone who's joined us here on the Crowdcast platform. Thank you to everybody live streaming for free on the I'm an Entrepreneur website. It's a country first for us to have entrepreneurs all over South Africa, all over Africa, all over the world, being able to stream and not having to have the money to have to pay for it. Because what's the point of bringing such a great platform if people can't access it? So I'm very happy to hear that many of you, hundreds and hundreds of you, took the opportunity on. Now, that's a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for everything. If you want to join us again, we're having another one in August. We're going to have one every month until the end of the year. So you'll be the first to know about it. If you are not in our newsletter group, where the hell have you been? So a link is going to pop up at the bottom of your screen that says subscribe to our newsletter. You click on that. That'll allow you to put your details and be able to get all of the information about our future webinars. And that is a wrap. Thank you very much. Thanks to our sponsors, FNB. Thank you to all of our other partners that make I'm an Entrepreneur possible. And thanks to you guys for joining us. Thanks for the comments. Yes, I see all the things coming from everybody and the hand claps. I really do appreciate it. Everybody from all over the country. I mean, we've had every province, certainly every time I looked, and even people from the United States and United Kingdom. We really appreciate you guys being here. It is 11:47. You gave me a little bit more time. I appreciate that. And who knows, maybe we do need to extend it by a couple of minutes to make sure we wrap everything up. Thank you again, once again, guys. I'll catch you on the social media platforms. And once again, what a pleasure it's been to host you this afternoon. This morning, rather. May you have a great afternoon, and it's the weekend, entrepreneur. So while I know you're going to be doing work, maybe have a drink or two just to calm yourself down so you can prepare for the next week ahead. Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
This has been the I'm an Entrepreneur Digital Summit in association with FNB and our partners.